Barbarian is a physically focused class who can also fight well with no armor. Just make sure that you do not equip them with heavy armor, as the rage won't work if heavy armor is equipped. They are best when equipped with melee weapons, as they can receive a good number of bonuses. Their most important stats are strength and constitution. You might add in as well dexterity, as it also helps in increasing their armor class and improving their initiative roll. Hello guys, Genuine here of Genuine Gaming, and here is my video on how you can create your Barbarian in Baldur's Gate 3. If you find this video helpful, do not forget to leave a like, and for more Baldur's Gate 3 videos, subscribe to the channel. Overview. If you want to play Barbarian, it should be because of its ability called Rage. Rage is a bonus action that allows you to deal extra damage with melee and improvised weapons and when throwing objects. The extra damage is as follows. In levels 1 to 8, the Barbarian gains 2 extra damage from raging. And in levels 9 to 12, the Barbarian gains 3 extra damage from raging. Aside from their bonus damage, Barbarians also become resistant to physical damage and have an advantage on strength checks and saving throws. Take note that the Barbarian cannot use his rage when wearing heavy armor. They also have an armor defense at level 1. An armor defense allows the Barbarian to add his constitution modifier, aside from dexterity, to his AC if not wearing any armor. Barbarians on armor defense also works when using a shield. So for your starting ability scores, I would suggest going for 17 strength, 16 constitution, and 14 dexterity. If you are playing a berserker, I suggest improving your strength to 18 by getting the Tavern Brawler feat. If not, you can get the magical hair of Aunt Ethel to improve it to 18. At level 2, they gain Danger Sense and Reckless Attack. Danger Sense gives the Barbarian an advantage on dexterity, saving throws against traps, spells, and surfaces. While Reckless Attack allows the Barbarian to have an advantage on his attack roll, enemies also have an advantage against the Barbarian. I suggest using it all the time. If the enemy hits you, you will only get half the damage because of your resistance. At level 3, the Barbarian gains an additional Rage Charge. That would make it 3 per long rests. At level 5, the Barbarian gains the coveted extra attack of Martial Class and then Fast Movement. Fast Movement gives the Barbarian an extra 3 meters of movement speed while not wearing heavy armor. At level 6, his Rage Charge is now 4 for every long rest. At level 7, he gains Feral Instinct. By this time, a Barbarian cannot anymore be surprised, and they also gain a +3 bonus to initiative rolls. At level 9, the Barbarian gains Brutal Critical. This would increase your critical hit damage by another die. So if you're able to get a critical hit while using your Great Sword, which is a 2d6 weapon, you're going to roll a 2d6 for your damage, another 2d6 for the critical damage, and another 2d6 for the Brutal Critical feature. That would be a total of 6d6 damage. Try to imagine if you have the Half-Orc race with their Savage Attack feature, you get to roll an 8d6 for every critical hit. Another synergy we could get from this feature is to go for a 3 levels of Fighter Dip and go for the Champion subclass for the improved critical feature, which reduces your critical hit by 1. That would mean that if you roll a 19, you also get a critical hit, which would be a 10% chance in a d20 roll. At level 11, the Barbarian gains Relentless Rage. Relentless Rage allows you to regain 1 hit point instead of being downed if you drop to 0 hit point while raging. This is once per short rests. At level 12, the Barbarian gains another Rage Charge, making it 5 Rage Charges per long rests. Barbarians are one of the few classes in BG3 which is fun to use even without multiclassing. You gain a lot from a Barbarian if you do not multiclass. So if you are a beginner and do not have any idea of what multiclassing is and how to multiclass, go for a Barbarian class. Subclass. The following are the subclasses of the Barbarian and their notable features. Berserker. This is the typical raging Barbarian character class. Your Barbarian rage now becomes Frenzy. When in Frenzy, you gain Frenzied Strike and Enraged Throw. These two are the very reason why the Berserker is my favorite Barbarian subclass. By just taking the Berserker subclass, it will immediately give you 2 options in using your bonus action, Frenzied Strike and Enraged Throw. Frenzied Strike allows the Barbarian to use his bonus action to make a melee attack at a cost called a stack of Frenzied Strain. Every time you use Frenzied Strike, it adds a stack of Frenzied Strain. The Barbarian takes a -1 penalty on attack rolls for every stack. All stacks are removed when Frenzy ends. The good side of this is that you have a way of coping with the penalties stacked through your ability called Reckless Attack, as it would give you an advantage on your attack roll. Enraged Throw. I like to use this ability compared to Frenzied Strike. Enraged Throw allows you to pick up an item on the ground or in your inventory and throw it at a target, dealing an additional damage and knocking it prone. And to further boost the damage of your Enraged Throw, allow your Barbarian to get the Tavern Brawler feat, as it would allow your Barbarian to add twice your Strength modifier to the damage and attack rolls. At level 6, the Barbarian gets Mindless Rage, which prevents him from being charmed or frightened and calm emotions while raging. Then, at level 10, the Barbarian gets Intimidating Presence. It allows you to menace an enemy and instill a terrible fear in them, not allowing them to move. WILDHEART is a BG3 version of the Totem Warrior in D&D 5e. At level 3, you get to choose a Bestial Heart, and you can change it every time you level up. Your rage powers would depend on the Bestial Heart you choose. You have the Bear Heart. When you rage, you have resistance to all damage types except psychic damage. You also have the ability called Unrelenting Ferocity, which requires an action to heal yourself. If you want to build a tank that can take a lot of damage from enemies, choosing the Bear Heart as your Bestial Heart is the way to go. Then the Eagle Heart. When in rage, enemies have a disadvantage on opportunity attacks against you and the ability to dash a bonus action. You also gain an ability called Diving Strike, wherein you leap onto a foe below the character to knock them prone and deal damage. This ability is pretty situational, as you're going to be on the high ground to pull out this ability. The Elk Heart. When you rage, your movement speed is increased by 4.5 meters. Then you have an ability called Primal Stampede, which allows you to charge forward, dealing bludgeoning damage and knocking foes prone. The Tiger Heart. When you rage, your jump distance is increased by 4.5 meters. Then you also gain Tiger's Bloodlust, wherein you get to hit 3 enemies with an attack that causes bleeding. The Wolf Heart. When in rage, you gain an advantage on attack rolls on targets within 2 meters. You also gain the ability called Inciting Howl, wherein each ally within earshot can move an additional 3 meters during their next turn. At level 6, you get to choose an animal aspect. Bear. Your carrying capacity is doubled when you have an advantage on strength checks. Chimpanzee. You have resistance to falling damage. You can throw camp supplies to blind enemies. You gain an advantage to your attack rolls if you attack blind enemies. And at the same time, blind enemies get a disadvantage every time they attack. Crocodile. Your movement on water-based surfaces is increased by 3 meters. On slippery surfaces, you gain an advantage on saving throws against being prone. I do not recommend this animal aspect, as this is very situational. If you want to increase your movement speed, better get the animal aspect of the elk. Eagle. You gain dark vision up to 12 meters, and you have an advantage on perception checks. This animal aspect is good for races that do not have dark vision like humans and Githyanki's. Elk. Your movement speed and the movement speed of your allies are increased by 1.5 meters. Honey Badger. You get a 50% chance for a free rage if poisoned, frightened, or charmed at the start of your turn. I also do not recommend this animal aspect, as I feel the number of your Barbarian Rage charge is always enough before your next long rest. Stallion. Dashing grants you temporary hit points equal to twice your level. This synergizes well with the Eagle Heart. Tiger. You get to double your strength modifier on attack rolls against bleeding or poison targets. You also gain proficiency in survival. This synergizes well with Tiger Heart, as you can bleed your enemies with your Tiger's Bloodlust. Wolf. You gain proficiency in stealth. You and your nearby allies add your dexterity modifier as a bonus to stealth checks. Wolverine. Attacks on bleeding or poison targets maim them. Maimed enemies have their movement speed reduced to 0 and have a disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Again, this synergizes well with Tiger Heart. At level 8, the WILDHEART Barbarian gets Land Stride, Difficult Terrain. Difficult terrain no longer slows you down. At level 10, you get another animal aspect. Then we have a pretty weird one, the Wild Magic. They cause a wild magic surge every time they enter a rage. They randomly get the following when they rage. Bolt of Light. You can shoot a bolt of light from your chest that blinds the target for 1 turn and does 1 to 6 radiant damage. Dark Tendrils. Shadowy tendrils lash around you, sucking the life from all creatures within 9 meters, dealing 1 to 12 necrotic damage, and granting you 1 to 12 temporary hit points. Intangible Spirit. You can summon a spectral flump within 9 meters of you. The flump explodes at the end of your turn, dealing 1 to 6 force damage. Magic Retribution. Enemies that hit you take 1 to 6 force damage. Protective Lights. You and your allies within 3 meters have a +1 bonus to AC. Teleport. You can teleport up to 18 meters as a bonus action. Vine Growth. The ground within 5 meters of you is a difficult terrain for everyone other than you. And Weapon Infusion. Your equipped weapon deals an additional 1 to 6 force damage and gains the light and thrown properties. If thrown, it immediately reappears in your hand. At level 6, you gain Bolstering Magic, Boon. You and your ally receives a +1d4 to attack rolls and ability checks. You also gain Bolstering Magic level 1 and level 2 spell slots, wherein you and your ally can recover a level 1 or a level 2 spell slot. At level 9, you have the Bolstering Magic level 3 spell slot. At level 10, you gain Unstable Backlash. While raging, when you take damage or fail a saving throw, you can trigger another wild magic effect that replaces the current one. Conclusion. If you want to play a melee character, try to consider playing as a barbarian. They can deal a good amount of damage and at the same time, they can take a lot of damage from enemies. They are also fun to level up as almost at every level, you would gain some improvement to your character. And these abilities would gradually make your barbarians more powerful. That is why it is difficult to multiclass a barbarian as you might lose some abilities. If you ask me how I build a barbarian, I would go for the half-orc race and raise it to a 9 levels of Berserker and have 3 fighter champion dip for that improved critical feature. And then equip him with gears and weapons that will lessen his critical hit roll. Then I have myself a barbarian critical hit machine. Hope you find the video helpful and see you in the next video. Ciao!